All right, diving right in. This week, it is a wild one we've got from March 2nd to the 9th. So much to cover. Crypto news just went crazy. You sent a whole stack of articles, and wow, this is one for the books for sure. Presidential Crypto Summit, meme coin chaos, and even a record-breaking hack. What a week.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a lot to process. Really shows you how fast things are changing in the crypto world, though. So where do you want to start with all of this?
Well, I mean, we can't ignore the elephant in the room, the Trump in the room, right? A White House crypto summit, a
Sure.
strategic Bitcoin reserve. It's like we've stepped into some kind of alternate reality.
It's definitely a huge shift to see Trump, who once called Bitcoin a scam, now leading the charge for a Bitcoin reserves. I mean, this summit plus that executive order, it's a whole new era for crypto in U.S. policy.
So, okay, let's get into the details then. This Bitcoin reserve, they're talking about using seized assets, right? What's the actual strategy?
Yeah, so the idea is to create a national strategic reserve of Bitcoin, kind of like how countries hold gold reserves.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're looking at using seized assets, like from criminal investigations and things like that, to build up this reserve. It's definitely a bold move, and there are a lot of strong opinions about whether it's a good idea or not.
Well, Michael Saylor, Mr. Bitcoin himself, is already predicting a $10 trillion annual return. Is that even remotely realistic?
Well, Saylor's known for his optimistic outlook, let's say. While a $10 trillion return is highly unlikely, I mean, his enthusiasm does highlight the potential upside, but of course we've got to consider the downsides too, right? Some critics are worried about the volatility of Bitcoin and the lack of diversification in this reserve.
Yeah, that's a good point. And speaking of volatility, the market had quite a reaction to the news. Bitcoin dipped briefly before climbing back up to like $92,000. What do you make of all of that?
It's really interesting, isn't it? The initial dip, I think, might reflect investor disappointment that the government wasn't like directly buying Bitcoin from the market. But then you see the price rallying, which suggests that overall the sentiment is still positive.
So does this mean this whole Bitcoin reserve thing is actually good for the market then?
It's still early to say. The market's still digesting this news. Some analysts predict some short-term consolidation around that 84,700 support level before any major moves. So we'll have to just wait and see how things unfold.
And it wasn't just Bitcoin making headlines this week, was it? Didn't some other cryptocurrencies like Cardano see some pretty big gains too?
Absolutely. While Bitcoin was stealing the show, a lot of altcoins were quietly posting impressive gains. Cardano, for example, surged by like 60%. And that could be linked to those early proposals that I mentioned, including altcoins in the reserve, though nothing's been confirmed yet.
Oh, wow. So basically any crypto that's even remotely related to this reserve plan is getting a boost, huh?
Seems to be the case for now, at least. It really highlights how speculative the market is and how quickly things can change based on just news and rumors and speculation.
Which brings us back to Trump, I guess. He wasn't content with just a Bitcoin reserve. He had to launch his own meme coin, too, Tumpcoin, on the Solana blockchain.
Really?
Yes, really. And it actually raked in a ton of money, over $350 million in just 3 weeks. And even though it's dropped a lot from its peak, those Trump-linked wallets are still holding billions in tokens. It definitely raises some interesting questions about political figures getting involved in the crypto world.
Yeah, it's kind of unsettling, to be honest. I mean, on the one hand, it's impressive how he capitalized on this whole meme coin trend. But on the other hand, it blurs the lines between politics and personal profit in a way that feels kind of icky.
It definitely raises some ethical questions, no doubt about that. But regardless of our personal opinions, it's a testament to how much power and influence meme coins have gained. I mean, they're not just a joke anymore. They can be serious moneymakers. Okay, so we've got Trump shaking things up, Bitcoin on a roller coaster, altcoins getting in on the action, but then there's this Bybit hack, $1.5 billion stolen reportedly by North Korea, that kind of throws a wrench in things.
Yeah, that's a stark reminder that security risks are still a huge problem in the crypto space. Well, the Bybit CEO is saying that most of the funds are traceable, and they're working to recover these bridged loans, basically loans backed by crypto. It's still a major blow.
And sorry, bridged loans, can you quickly explain that for listeners who might not be familiar with the term?
Sure, so imagine you have some Bitcoin, but you need to borrow a different cryptocurrency. You can use your Bitcoin as collateral to get a loan in that other cryptocurrency. That's basically what a bridged loan is in simple terms.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up. It's easy to get lost in the jargon sometimes. But going back to this hack, what does this mean for the future of crypto security? Are we just going to see more of these massive heists?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the Bybit hack, being the largest ever, really highlights just how vulnerable things still are. Exchanges need to make security a top priority, and users need to be extra cautious about their own security practices too. It's a shared responsibility for sure.
It sounds like it. So even with all the positive developments, there are still some major hurdles to overcome. It feels like crypto is constantly teetering between triumph and disaster.
That's a really great way to put it. This week really encapsulates both the incredible potential and the inherent risks of this crypto world.
Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground here, from presidential summits to meme coins to billion-dollar hacks, but we're just getting started up next. We'll dive deeper into El Salvador's Bitcoin stand, the SEC's surprising shift, and the curious case of Picoin, so stay tuned. So we talked about the big players like Trump and Bitcoin, but what about the rest of the world? El Salvador, for example, has been making some big moves with their whole Bitcoin-centric approach. They're facing pressure from the IMF, but they're doubling down on their commitment to Bitcoin. What's their end game here?
It's fascinating to watch El Salvador's experiment with Bitcoin. They've made it legal tender, launched Bitcoin-backed bonds. They're even building a Bitcoin city powered by geothermal energy. They really believe Bitcoin can revolutionize their economy and attract foreign investment.
But the IMF isn't exactly thrilled about all this, right? They've urged El Salvador to ditch Bitcoin as legal tender.
Yeah, they're definitely not happy about it. The IMF is concerned about the volatility of Bitcoin and the risks it poses to El Salvador's financial stability. But El Salvador is pushing back, saying they have the right to choose their own path.
It's a bold move, for sure. Do you think other countries might follow suit?
It's definitely possible if El Salvador's gamble pays off. It could start a domino effect with other nations, especially those with struggling economies, looking to Bitcoin as a way to break free from traditional financial systems. But of course, if things go south, it could be a cautionary tale for everyone.
It's like a high-stakes poker game with the future of global finance hanging in the balance. And speaking of high stakes, the SEC has been making some interesting moves lately. They dropped their case against Uniswap, a decentralized exchange, and then they did the same thing with Robinhood Crypto. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's a pretty significant shift. The SEC has been cracking down on crypto for years. But these recent dismissals suggest they might be softening their stance, particularly when it comes to DeFi, decentralized finance.
DeFi, can you give us a quick rundown of what that's all about for those who might not be familiar?
Sure. So basically, DeFi aims to recreate traditional financial services like lending and borrowing, but without the need for banks or intermediaries. It relies on blockchain technology and smart contracts to automate those processes.
So DeFi could potentially bypass traditional financial institutions altogether.
That's the idea. It's still early days for DeFi, but it definitely has the potential to disrupt the entire financial industry. And if the SEC is easing up, it could open the floodgates for a wave of innovation in the space.
That's exciting, but also a little scary. Less regulation can be good for innovation, but it can also lead to more scams and risks, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
There's a delicate balance to strike between fostering innovation and protecting investors. The SEC needs to find that sweet spot, and it's not clear yet whether their current approach will do that.
So we've got El Salvador pushing Bitcoin adoption, the IMF pushing back, and the SEC seemingly opening the door for DeFi. It's a lot to take in. And then there's Picoin adding to the mix. It's been fluctuating wildly, fueled by those rumors of a potential Binance listing. What's the deal with this mysterious coin?
Picoin is an interesting one. It's a relatively new cryptocurrency that's gained a lot of traction through its mobile mining app. Those rumors about a Binance listing, which is one of the biggest crypto exchanges out there, sent its price skyrocketing, but it's also crashed a few times.
Sounds incredibly volatile, even by crypto standards. What do you think about its potential?
It's hard to say. Some experts believe it could be a real contender, especially if it gets listed on major exchanges. But others are skeptical. They see it as a pump-and-dump scheme. The truth probably lies somewhere in between.
So basically, it's a gamble.
Isn't all crypto to some extent? That's part of the allure, but also the risk. You have the potential for massive gains, but you could also lose everything.
It's like riding a roller coaster in the dark. You have no idea where you're going, but you're just holding on for dear life.
That's a great analogy. This week's news cycle definitely felt like a wild ride. We've seen huge shifts in the political landscape, regulatory changes, technological advancements, and, of course, that ever-present market volatility. It's a lot to keep up with, even for seasoned crypto enthusiasts.
And that's what we're here for, right? To break it all down and make sense of this crazy world. But it's not just about understanding the headlines. It's about understanding how all of this impacts you, the listener.
Exactly. This week's events raise some big questions for everyone involved in crypto, whether you're a long-time investor or just starting to dip your toes in.
So let's turn it over to you, the listener. What stood out to you most this week, and what does it all mean for your own crypto journey?
Wow, so much to unpack this week, right? From Trump giving Bitcoin the thumbs up to those massive Bitcoin reserves to meme coins going wild in that insane Bybit hack, it's been a whirlwind.
Definitely a lot to take in. I'm curious what really stuck with you from all of this. Anything surprise you?
I mean, were you surprised by Trump's whole pro-crypto stance? Did the Bybit hack make you rethink your own security measures? Or maybe El Salvador sticking to their Bitcoin guns even with the IMF breathing down their neck got you thinking?
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in all the headlines, but it's important to step back and think about what it all means for you personally, your own journey in the crypto world.
Totally. For example, if you're an investor, do you see Trump jumping on the Bitcoin bandwagon as a good sign? Or does that Bybit hack make you want to play it safe?
Right, these aren't just stories. They have real consequences. So how do you plan to navigate this crazy landscape? Are you holding on for dear life, or are you making moves trying to ride the waves of volatility? And it goes beyond just the money, too. Think about the bigger picture. El Salvador is all in on Bitcoin. Will other countries follow their lead?
What about the SEC seemingly easing up on DeFi? Could that spark some serious innovation, or are we just setting ourselves up for another regulatory roller coaster?
So many questions, and they're all important because they're going to shape the future of cryptocurrency as we know it.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to chew on.
Imagine it's March 2026. 1 year from now, what will we be talking about on this show?
Will Bitcoin have hit some crazy new all-time highs, or will it have come crashing down to earth?
Will more countries join El Salvador and embrace Bitcoin as their own?
What about DeFi? Will it have lived up to the hype and transformed finance, or will it be just another cautionary tale?
We can't predict the future, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride. So buckle up, stay informed, stay curious, and keep on diving deep into this crazy world of crypto.